The jury's still out.
Just needs to know which leaves to take out. Come back to my student, which is going We're going to get started in just a moment, so if I can just ask for your indulgence for another minute to make sure that we're all here. Okay, we're going to get started with that with you, okay? Good afternoon, everyone. I want to ask all of us at the table to please turn off your cell phones, or at least turn them to silent, and make sure they're off the table. Also, everyone with Blackberries, please make sure your Blackberries are off the table so we can avoid any feedback noise. For those of you in the other side of the table who might realize that board members are accessing through they're using their laptops, they're actually accessing the agenda and their minutes and notes through that process. So all of the notes were transmitted and transformed, except whatever the correct term is, into electronic vehicle, and I want to thank the board staff for doing that. So everyone's got their computers working?
Almost there.
Almost there, okay. So we'll just give it a minute. Okay. So as you know, the board has experienced a significant number of vacancies, in its membership to the point where quorum concerns have arisen. It is extremely important that members do not leave even temporarily during the full board meeting. As the board considers action items on its agenda and the business to be done, all members need to be present. If members need to step out, even for a moment, please request a break. Or if it is to take an emergency call, please ensure that you're the only member stepping out of the room at that time. I would truly appreciate if all members would remain in attendance until we come back to a break, or until we reach a break or the agenda is completed. At the moment, we are short one member, so we are literally at quorum now. Okay. The board welcomes public comment on any item on the agenda, and it is the board's intent to ask for public comment prior to the board taking action on any agenda item. If for some reason I forget to ask for public comment, please raise your hand and you will be recognized. I would like to remind all the speakers to complete a speaker slip. Presenter slip and giving Ms. Thompson. Ms. Thompson, will you identify yourself, please? She's there in the rear of the room, so she needs to have one of these prior to your speaking. I'll do my best to call on everyone who has supplied a slip for the agenda item and recognize those who wish to make a last-minute comment. But you will need to fill out a speaker slip after your comments, so we have that for the record, please. I want to remind all speakers to please stay on topic and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Please note there will be a slight change in the agenda as originally posted on the board's website. As noticed, agenda item number 24, the CMA's presentation on the California Physician Workforce Report, has been moved from Friday tomorrow to today. The presentation will take place immediately following agenda item number 3. The other presentations that have to do with this board's engagement on workforce issues and access to care will still take place during the regular scheduled agenda items tomorrow. In addition, I will take item number 9, the legislative report, after the presentation so that CME is present. So if we have any questions about the proposed legislation, we can ask at that time. If there are any additional changes or additions as we go forward, I will announce them as appropriate, giving the chair's prerogative. If we will end the meeting today at 3:30 and resume tomorrow at 9 o'clock sharp. So if we've not completed any of the items listed below, they will be carried on to tomorrow's agenda. So I'd like to start with a roll call, please. Ms. Thompson.
Dr. Coyle.
Here.
Ms. Chang. Here. Dr. Duriso.
Here.
Dr. Levine.
Here.
Dr. Lowe. Dr. Moran.
Here.
Dr. Solomon.
Here.
Ms. Chipsky.
Here.
Ms. Yaroslavsky.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. So we're going to move on to item number 2, public comment on items not on the agenda, and I'd like to call Dr. Fermansky, please, forward.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. The comments that I just Good afternoon. My comments are related to a generic problem that the board is having with the orders that it's issuing. The orders that you issue, you see practically every meeting that you have, they're either orders of the board or disciplinary orders, and a lot of the orders look the same. They look the same because they come off of word processor, and word processor, they're all coordinated with one another, and the wording of these statements in the orders is very similar, one order to another. You probably noticed that. It turns out that when the board orders testing to be done of a doctor, the verbiage that comes out of the computer, in which you form into orders, in which become the orders, it's the verbiage that the doctor shall be tested in his specialty or subspecialty. So if the doctor is an anesthesiologist, you require him to be tested in a test in his specialty or subspecialty, anesthesiology, a radiologist in diagnostic radiology, or if subspecialized in, for instance, magnetic resonance imaging, if the test has to be in magnetic resonance imaging, which is a well-recognized subspecialty in radiology. The same with PET scanning, CT scanning, nuclear medicine, and ultrasound. It turns out that you issue the orders in good faith, but in many cases the enforcement people don't have the test in the topic that you ordered. For instance, you do not have a test in diagnostic radiology. You just don't have it. We've gone through the Public Records Act and checked if you do, and the answer is you don't. And the same thing with MRI, nuclear magnetic resonance imaging, ultrasound, PET scanning, positron emission tomography. I'll switch over to anesthesiology, chemotherapy, surgical specialties. One of your doctors here is a specialist in cleft palate surgery. That's her subspecialty. But you don't have a test in it, so if she ever got an order to go have a test, you couldn't test her. Not only do you not have the test, you don't have the objective, published standards that would be required to grade the test. So not only do you issue an order that can't be complied with, you don't have the test to comply with the order. And this could be verified very easily, and it's been verified from the standpoint of the government, the California Public Records Act. You just don't have these things. If there's any doubt in your mind, a lot of you have traveled 100 or more miles to get here. I would suggest you travel 5 more miles back to the main headquarters on Evergreen Street and ask either Miss Katie or Miss Threadgill to open the file cabinets and take out the test that they would use to test a radiologist in nuclear magnetic resonance imaging. What you'll find is you'll open the cupboard and the cupboard will be bare. There is no test. You've had no test. I've gone into the history of the whole thing. You not only don't have a test in diagnostic radiology or the subspecialties, you never did. When you like to issue orders, sometimes go to police, and the verbiage that comes out of the computer that you incorporate, and these orders come out like flat back sheets.
So you're going to have to wrap it up. You've got about another 30 seconds.
The point I'm making is you're issuing orders that couldn't possibly be complied with. When you make an order for police, it says the same thing in specialty or subspecialty. We've gone through the Public Records Act with police. They don't have these orders, and the University of California has agreed. Police does not have in its inventory the proper testing or the ability to score the test. My suggestion to you is twofold. Establish an administrative pathway to have the orders for radiologists, chemotherapists, anesthesiologists voided administratively through administrative staff. Then create a pathway by which doctors can come to the board directly and have bad orders eliminated. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have, I do. Ramiro Reyes, would you like to come forward, please?
Good afternoon, my name is Ramiro Reyes, and this is not on the agenda, but I'm here to register a complaint and for you to do a thorough investigation regarding this claims coming up.
So let me just stop you and suggest that you're not going to use any names or be involved in any kind of stuff that we might have to take a look at, because then that would put us in an undue conflict of interest.
I'm just a citizen.
Thank you. Okay, just wanted to forewarn you. Okay, thank you.
I'm worried of the public safety and welfare. You have these cannabis claims coming up, doing recommendations with no doctor on the spot, doing via internet in violation of Proposition 216, I believe. You go in there, you talk to the camera, the doctor never makes sense in you, check your blood pressure, or looking at the scars or any prior diagnosis, and I think they're very illegal. Not a lot of the laws have changed from yesterday to today. My question is it illegal for a doctor to do a recommendation for cannabis via internet?
As usual, we don't answer. This is your chance to tell us what you'd like. You have 3 minutes to tell us what
Okay,
you'd
I
like.
understand that.
Okay.
So just keep in mind, it's illegal for a doctor to do a medical recommendation for cannabis via internet. When the law says that he has to examine you, check your blood pressure, maybe look at your scars or look at the prior diagnosis in the medical records. And what we need is a thorough investigation, like tomorrow starting, regarding this issue here, because we have a lot of doctors in violation.
Okay, what I want to suggest is that you're more than welcome to make a complaint directly about any entity you'd like to confidentially. Ms. Threadgill's in the front row over there. Why don't you speak with her directly, because
I understand that.
this is not
This is
the
for the
forum.
record.
Okay, so it's on the record. We appreciate
What I have
it.
to do,
Okay.
I've been trying to get via phone to the medical board, and a bunch of...
I'm telling you, you don't even have to bother with the phone. You've got a person right here who's
I
willing to
understand
speak.
that I will do that at the meeting.
Fine, thank you.
I'm just here to express my concerns.
Okay.
And what is the board willing to do regarding these issues? Corporations, they have opened up, they're not doctors, and they're opening cannabis recommendations, which under the law, it should be offered at only the clinic. And I would appreciate if something can be done about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Next person, Dr. Dean Grow. Pardon me? Crow, I apologize. It's hard to read. I apologize.
Yeah, I've been a physician here in California for over 30 years. Been active in the emergency room. I have no complaints.
The
And
microphone is not, you need to come a bit closer.
a little closer, is that better? I'm sorry. I've been active in practice for a long time. No complaints with the board, no malpractice suits. I do wellness counseling, wellness doctoring, and part of my practice, I do recommend cannabis. Okay? I try to do the practice by the guidelines that were presented by the board. We have companies that have moved in now that are doing violation of the action report that was issued by the board in 2004, okay? And they've been in practice in the state. I've done my homework. They've been in practice in the state for over 18 months without a physician ownership, only through by a chiropractor. Now, since I noticed their physicians that they were in violation, now they have appointed a physician to be on their board, and now they have been licensed by the California board under their, they call it, fictitious name permit, sorry. How come these people can do this for 18 months? Their office is within a half a mile of here. This has been going on for 18 months without them being registered, without them having a physician in their corporation. We went to the I went to the state board of corporations this morning, and their corporation was formed back in February 2010. I have all the documents coming. I couldn't get them today, but they will be forwarded to us, okay? I would like to have somebody I could forward those to on the board so that they can...
Okay, I'm going to suggest to you, as I suggested to the gentleman before, that Ms. Thurgood, Chief of Enforcement, sitting in the front row over here, she is very happy to speak with you after the meeting.
Wonderful.
The issue is that your knowing information and not giving it to the appropriate resource is not going to do you any good. So my suggestion to you is thank you very much for your comments. We need to speak with Ms. Thurgood, and that's the way the process goes. Or, had you wanted 6 months ago to report anonymously, you could have done that as well. We're very good at checking on information we have. It's very hard for us to check on information we don't have. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks. So I don't have any other slips for people that would like to speak on items that are not on the agenda. So we're going to move on with the agenda. I would ask for an approval if there's any corrections or additions to the minutes from the May 6th meeting. I'd like a motion then to approve the minutes as submitted. Second? Second. Any public comment on the minutes as recommended that they be approved? Seeing none other, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The minutes are adopted. Before moving on to agenda item number 24 in the CMA presentation, I'd like to appoint Dr. Simonson to serve on the application review committee for tomorrow morning's 8:30 morning meeting. Thank you very much. Now I would like to ask Ms. Chung and Mr. Graffiro to please come forward. These are representatives from the California Medical Association, and they are going to deliver a presentation on the California physician workforce. You have your information in your packet beginning on page 203. Which is volume tab number 24, and their bios are listed there. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us here today. Dean Garfield with the California Medical Association. My colleague Ron Chong is here as well. Before I get started, I need some technical assistance on projecting. I don't want to turn it off.
Okay, do you have it, do you need some help, Russ, or
I don't want, like I said, I don't want to turn it off.
don't look at me?
Computer's not protected.
Yeah.
Have a clue? I know what a computer looks like. Excuse me, it's on page 203, which is behind tab 24.
As this gets warmed up, again, let me first thank the board in allowing us to present on this very important issue for hopefully not just the California Medical Association, but for all stakeholders related to healthcare. This is an issue that, as you can imagine, is going to take multiple years to address effectively. Our attempt in this presentation is to provide some insight as to the current crisis of the physician workforce shortage here in California, and also to start a dialogue beyond to try to more effectively address this issue. With that being said, I'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. In the last 20 years, physician workforce analysts have gone from projecting a national oversupply of doctors to projecting a widespread shortage. The most recent estimates claim that the United States will be short over 91,000 doctors by 2020. Projections that specifically address our state estimate that California's shortage will reach 17,000 physicians by 2015. It is worth noting, however, that the California projections came out before the passage of federal healthcare reform, which is expected to increase California's insured patient population by as much as 10%. But California's problems with physician workforce go well beyond simply the number of doctors we have practicing in the state. The composition and distribution of our state's physicians, as well as California's capacity to train and recruit the next generation of physicians, are also key points to consider. With that in mind, today we'd like to talk about 5 issues that have significant implications for the future of California's physician workforce. The first of these issues is a physician training pipeline fraught with bottlenecks. Last year, California's 8 allopathic medical schools received over 45,000 applications for about 1,000 positions. Despite in-state residents filling over 50% of California's private school slots and over 90% of California's public school slots, the vast majority of medical students from California are forced to go out of state. Only 41% attend California medical schools compared to a national average of 62%, minimizing the benefit that California gets from having the highest retention rate for medical students in the country. In fact, doctors from California medical schools make up barely a quarter of California's physician workforce. Nationally, graduate medical education is an even bigger bottleneck. Last year, over 37,500 medical students applied for only 25,500 residency positions. In California, we see a similar trend with residency as we saw in medical schools, an extremely high retention rate, but relatively few positions available. As many doctors tend to settle near where they complete their residency, this is arguably a much larger concern with consideration to workforce than the shortage of medical school positions. Unfortunately, it is also much more complicated politically. The primary source of funding for graduate medical education is Medicare, accounting for roughly 70% of all GME dollars. However, the number of funded positions and their distribution across the country was frozen by the Balanced Budget Act of 1997. At that time, the majority of residency slots existed in New York and New England, and so that geographical bias was institutionalized. While Medi-Cal also provides a significant funding stream for GME, it has its own set of problems. For one, California receives the minimum federal matching rate for Medi-Cal expenditures because of the state's high per cap income, despite the fact that California also has a disproportionately high poverty rate and thus a large medical population. Medi-Cal also only funds GME through its fee-for-service programs, while its capitated managed care programs, which represent 50% of the Medi-Cal patient population and growing, do not. Lastly, California's budget crisis makes the dependability of this revenue stream questionable. In the past 7 years, 7 states have ceased Medicaid funding for GME entirely due to budget shortfalls, while another 9 have seriously considered doing the same. The shortcomings of California's physician training pipeline make us particularly dependent on attracting doctors from outside the state. As I mentioned before, these doctors constitute nearly 3/4 of our workforce. Thus, maximizing the appeal of California as a medical practice environment is the second major issue. One of the biggest problems with this is Medi-Cal. California's Medi-Cal rates are the 4th lowest of any state in the country. That is not including the 10% cut under Schwarzenegger that is now set to go in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, or the new 10% cut that Governor Brown just signed into law. Also detracting from the fiscal appeal of California is the fact that the state has one of the highest costs of living in the country, which results in narrow margins for maintaining the financial viability of a medical practice. The pending implementation of federal health reform does not help matters either. PPACA is expected to add as many as 3 million newly insured Californians to the existing patient population without any corresponding increase in the number of California physicians. The stresses that such a huge increase in demand could have on an already overstretched healthcare system are hard to predict. One positive note is that the medical liability insurance premiums in California are actually quite low relative to other states. The primary reasons for this is MICRA and its $250,000 limit on non-economic damages. However, MICRA has long been a target for the consumer attorneys in California, and there's recently been a push to change key parts of MICRA, including raising the non-economic damages cap. The third major issue with California's physician supply is specialty distribution. In particular, there is an immense need for more primary care physicians. Currently, almost 3/4 of California's counties have a shortage of primary care physicians, according to COGME. While there is a great deal of consensus that we need more primary care physicians, we have about the same proportion of primary care residencies as we do practicing primary care doctors, approximately 34%. One reason for this may be that residents in several other kinds of specialties, particularly rare subspecialties, can actually help fund their programs through the cost of their services. Primary care residents do not make money for their hospitals in this way. Primary care residencies are now also drawing considerably lower levels of interest among graduating medical students than many other specialties. Only 42% of family practice residencies, 56% of internal med residencies, and 71% of pediatric residencies are filled by medical students designating those specialties as their first or only choice. By comparison, general surgery, obstetrics, anesthesiology, and emergency medicine all have levels of interest above 80%. Radiology and orthopedic surgery have levels of interest above 100%. While there is still a great deal of debate over why interest in primary care is waning, the AMA is beginning to find links between medical school debt and medical students pursuing higher paid specialties. Between 2001 and 2006, medical school tuition skyrocketed by over 11% annually, and since then it has continued to grow. As a result, 86% of medical students are now graduating with outstanding debt, with the average student owing over $156,000. One survey conducted in 2009 found that 37% of medical students anticipated that educational debt would influence their choice of specialty. With primary care physicians making on average only 70% of the median income for all doctors, higher debt would seem likely to impact their specialty in particular. In California, we face a particular challenge in recruiting primary care physicians, as in this state, they average only 88% of the national average income for their specialty. This graph shows distribution of primary care and specialist physicians across California, with primary care physicians in red, which is the top bar, and specialists in orange. The vertical bars here represent Cogni's recommended physician supply ranges. As you can see, the supply of primary care physicians is lagging significantly behind that of specialists, with most regions completely below Cogni's minimum recommended supply. This graph also helps to illustrate the fourth issue with California's physician workforce, which is in the extremely uneven geographical distribution of physicians. As you can see, the urban centers of San Francisco, Sacramento, San Diego, and Los Angeles all have a considerable advantage over less metropolitan areas like the San Joaquin Valley, Northern and Sierra regions, Central Coast, and Inland Empire. In fact, there are over 200 different areas and populations in California that have been federally designated as medically underserved. As you might imagine, these areas overlap considerably with regions of California that have a high proportion of Medi-Cal patients. This is even more problematic when we remember how low Medi-Cal rates are. The end result of all this is a relatively small number of physicians treating a large patient load with substandard provider rates. Not only does this make it difficult for doctors in those regions to take on new Medi-Cal patients and keep the doors of their practice open, but it is a significant impediment to attracting more physicians to those regions. This is a map of all the medically underserved areas and populations in California. As you can see, a considerable portion of the state falls under the medically underserved label. And while at first glance it may seem almost like a rural-urban split, if you look closely, you can see that most of the major urban centers, LA, San Diego, Sacramento, and the Bay Area, they are also peppered with medically underserved areas as well. The fifth and final issue is a shortcoming in the ethnic and racial diversity of our physician workforce. As this graph shows, several groups are significantly underrepresented, most notably Latinos, who have a 32-point shortfall in their representation among California's physician workforce. African Americans are also significantly underrepresented, and although this particular graph does not show it, so are Samoan, Cambodian, and Laotian ethnicities. There are many benefits to increasing the ethnic and racial diversity of the physician workforce. To start with, ethnic physicians are far more likely to go into primary care as well as practice in low-income and underserved areas. Thus, increasing diversity will simultaneously address two of the other big issues with California's physician workforce. Diversity is also important for patient care and access. Studies have shown ethnic physicians are more attuned to screening and treating health risks associated with their own race and ethnicity. Many ethnic physicians are also better prepared to provide culturally competent care and possess a stronger awareness of and ability to communicate about traditional medicines. In addition, for patients for whom English is not their first language, the ability to speak to a physician in their primary language greatly improves communication and healthcare consumption. And I'll turn it over to Yvonne, who will address some of the issues that are being addressed.
Good afternoon. My name is Yvonne Chen. I'm with the California Medical Association. As Dean outlined, Dean has sort of provided some background as to where we are on these various issues. So the issues what I'm going to be discussing is what we can do about it and what we view as potential solutions. So first of all, the first issue, the physician pipeline. Efforts to increase medical school enrollment, both by expanding the class sizes of existing schools and building new schools, have already begun. However, finding funding in California's current financial landscape has proven challenging. While the UC Riverside School of Medicine planned to open in 2012, state funding was not provided for the School of Medicine in the 11-12 fiscal year budget. So without additional state funding, the campus won't be able to successfully appeal the denial of a preliminary accreditation made by the Liaison Committee for Medical Education, which accredits medical schools. The school is attempting to secure ongoing state resources, but this has basically delayed their opening by another year to 2013. UC Merced has been able to partner with UC Davis to open their medical school with 6 students starting fall of 2011. So while they are on track to have a medical school, you can see the progress is going to be fairly slow with 6 students. And so with the current state of medical schools, new California medical schools are unlikely to significantly increase the supply of physicians in the near future. So there may also be a need to expand the size of the medical school classes in the existing schools. So since clearly opening new medical schools is probably not going to do it, next option would therefore be to try to expand the number of residency slots in California. Since there aren't enough medical school slots in California, logically, we could try to attract students who are attending medical school in other states to come to California, but there need to be residency slots here for them to conduct their training. Expanding California's residency positions is an even trickier proposition. In the short term, again, California's budget deficit leaves few options outside of looking for private sources of GME funding. In the long term, what we would need is change at the federal level with how we fund residency programs through Medicare. CMA is actually sponsoring SB 347 Rubio, which looks at carving out a piece of Medi-Cal managed care and essentially earmarking a chunk of that to be provided to hospitals specifically for GME training, but that is a 2-year bill at this point. And third, which is actually not listed here, is looking at foreign medical graduates. As the board knows, not in California and nationally, many individuals are seeking medical education at foreign medical schools. Since these schools are a significant source of physicians and California has some of the strictest standards regarding recognizing foreign medical schools, one way to increase the number of physicians eligible to practice in California might be to revisit some of the standards and the list of schools eligible for recognition by the board. The second issue is the practice environment. A couple strategies that we see: upholding the microcap to continue to contain medical liability insurance premiums. That is one thing that California does have going for it, is the existence of micro that does make it very attractive for physicians coming to the state, coming to practice from another state. Increasing Medi-Cal payments, this is going to be a common theme. The low level of Medi-Cal payments really is the root cause of a lot of our issues with physician supply. And thirdly, streamlining the medical licensing process. At CME, we do get calls from practices, hospitals, physician applicants who are interested in practicing in California, but oftentimes the 6 to 9 month period of obtaining a license, they either can't wait that long, or they find it to be too daunting and need to move on. So that is another area that we could look at. In addition, California has some of the highest licensing fees in the state as well, so for a new physician just starting out, that can prove to be a barrier. Issue 2, dealing with the primary care shortage. In attempting to increase our supply of primary care physicians, one strategy would be to reduce financial barriers early on by expanding scholarships and grants to medical students. By providing more assistance with tuition up front, we could prevent debt from accumulating. This would reduce the financial pressures for choosing a higher paying specialty after graduation. Again, CMA is sponsoring the bill 8589 PROA. This prior CMA-sponsored legislation provided $1 million a year in funding for the Steve Thompson Loan Repayment Program, which gives physicians up to $105,000 in loan repayment if he or she agrees to practice in an underserved area for at least 3 years. This bill would mirror the loan repayment program and create the Steve Thompson Scholarship Program for medical school, whereupon completion of residency, awardees would practice in a highly medically underserved area. So essentially this would provide funding on in the front end rather than a low repayment program. Another idea would be to increase compensation for primary care services to make the profession more attractive to medical students and primary care physicians from out of state. This can be addressed by, again, improving Medi-Cal payments, cracking down on insurance plan abuses, sufficiently funding public health initiatives like flu vaccines, or expanding loan repayment programs for primary care physicians. And the third option, which has been explored in other states, is developing a shortened primary care education track. While these first two ideas both rely heavily on direct financial incentives, this one sort of attacks the problem from a different angle. In theory, such a system would reduce the amount of debt primary care physicians accumulate by taking a year off of their medical schooling and would allow them to start earning a living 1 year sooner. Again, as you're aware, the medical board has very rigorous standards when recognizing medical schools, so any plan to condense medical education would have to meet the medical board's requirements to ensure that these students would be eligible to practice in California. Geographical distribution. To address the poor geographic distribution of physicians across the state, we also need to make underserved communities more attractive locations to practice in. One option would be to expand existing state loan repayment programs for primary care practitioners and specialists working in underserved areas. This would be expanding programs like the Steve Thompson program. Just for your information, in 2011, the Steve Thompson Loan Repayment Program was awarded $3.1 million in loan repayment scholarships to 34 physicians. This is more funding than they've ever been able to allocate, and they're going to be actually combining their funding with some available federal funding to expand this next year. Other options would be to expand medical schools' rural training programs. These types of programs basically increase the exposure for medical students and residents to what it's like to work in a rural training program and hopefully get them to be more interested in practicing there when they graduate. Finally, ethnic and racial diversity. There are a few options here. Again, recruiting more students from underserved communities. What the research has shown time and time again, students that come from underserved areas and go to medical school are far more likely to go back there to practice. And there are a lot of resources available in California. There can always be more advising, starting early on in their education process, pre-medical advising services, providing strong mentorship opportunities, helping them to sort of navigate the process of completing their undergraduate education, medical school, and residency. Another option is reducing the financial barriers, again, stopping tuition hikes and focusing more attention on scholarships and grants to these students. And finally, developing medical education programs and continuing medical education courses that focus on culturally competent care. I mean, this is a way for medical schools to reach out to these students and really show them that as a community, we are concerned about increasing diversity among our physician population. So a few of the issues we talked about today here are simple, and most of the current proposed solutions carry significant costs. However, the length of the physician training pipeline means that even were reforms to be instituted today, it would be many years before any substantive change were felt in the workforce. For this reason, it's extremely important to start addressing these problem areas as soon as possible. Every issue we can begin addressing in the here and now will pay dividends down the line in the availability of health care for all Californians. And just to let you know, I think we have emailed the issue brief to the board, and we are waiting on the final editing of our full report, so we're hoping that will be available within the next couple of weeks or month or so. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. We don't call yet. Let's hear if there are any additional questions from any of the members of the board, please. Anyone have any questions for our presenters?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment, and that is that I believe that there are going to be new private medical schools opening in California that should significantly increase the physician pool. Are you aware of those programs?
We are aware of them, we've heard about it, but we haven't been invited into the discussion process. So what we've heard is primarily rumor and anecdotal information. So. I don't have a lot of concrete information on what they're, my understanding is that they are looking at this shortened primary care track, though.
Well, these are just brand new medical schools trying to compete with the foreign schools.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so one is actually here in Sacramento.
Oh, okay.
Another
Are they
is-
actually accepting students now?
I believe they are going to accept their first class next year.
Oh, okay.
And I believe that isn't Kaiser also planning to develop a school in Southern California?
We've been having conversations about that for several years, but there's nothing in the offing at the moment. At least not that I know of.
I mean, we will definitely keep tabs on this issue because that's an option that's been proposed time and time again. We haven't seen anybody really follow through on it yet, so we'll see.
Well, generally, things can be fixed with money. It's just a matter of finding money.
Right.
Well, you know,
Just money.
not everybody is doing poorly in medicine. It's that, you know, pharmaceuticals, device companies, insurance companies, people are making money in healthcare. We need to tax that money to help subsidize this problem with maldistribution in training.
I couldn't agree with you more. As you may be aware, there are actually some states that are years ahead of California in regards to all stakeholders paying or helping to pitch in towards funding GME in those states. And it is something we have seriously considered. As you can imagine, the political environment for that type of legislation may prove difficult, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't at least continue that kind of conversation.
Thank you. I would also like to clarify one of the points that you made in your presentation. Although it used to be very significant, the delay in our licensing division, this is no longer the case. So I just want, in all due fairness, that was a very sore subject with us. So
I was trying to go fast, but I didn't want to put that. We are pleased that we have increased the speed with which you process licensing applications. On the website, it still does say it takes 6 to 9 months, so we do get calls, fairly regularly from physicians asking, is it really 6 to 9 months? And, we always, obviously, we refer them to you, and then we tell them that you are currently within your statutory limits in terms of reviewing applications. Some of them still feel like it's too long. That's between them and you, but we would recognize that you have made significant improvements.
thank you very much. Any other questions? Thank you very much for your report. I do have public comment on item number 2. Mr. Sheik, if you come forward.
Madam Chair, on this issue, is it possible through the Federation, could we get a report that compares other states in terms of the length for licensing and also the fees? I know you indicated.
I've seen information on the fees. I don't think that I haven't seen a similar report on the length of time it takes to process the application.
Hetty, is that something that, I thought the Federation was looking at?
We just started looking at all the measurements of the board. And that was one of the things they were talking about. Linda actually is on one of those boards. We have 2 committees set up for that.
Well, I think it would be helpful for this board if at some point, time certain soon, that we would see see how we compare up with other states.
We can get that data from the Federation making a special request, but we can also look at some of the data that they already publish and put that forward and present it to you at the next meeting.
Because I thought it was helpful when, I forget the report that we did get about the standards of evidence needed between the different states on discipline, to find out that our standard was different than other states, which obviously our standard is higher, which makes it more difficult to prove a case, which means we do have less discipline actions taken than other states do. So I think this would be helpful too if we look at.
Well, yeah. Actually, our state has this is a little different because of the information is so different. I was talking to a guy from New York. They have 45,000 physicians and we have 120,000 physicians. And they have the same kind of a complaint that we have. And they have 8,000 complaints. And so all these things, and then they actually do 1 and 150 discipline cases. So all these informations are very interesting, and I'll request some of that too.
Yeah, it would be helpful so that if there's a way that we can urge, removal for barriers, to be able to get licenses, this would help us have the information to be able to make that case.
And just to be clear, it's certainly not CMA's position that we should lower standards to the point of getting more physicians that are less qualified. It's, I think there's always an opportunity to revisit standards and see if they still make sense.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Sheik, do you want to speak on their presentation? No, it's okay. I was thinking it said you did, so.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. We'll just move on the agenda. Thank you very much. Thank you again. I'd also like, for the record, I'd like to acknowledge it also that Dr. Lowe is present. Thank you for bringing me back. I would ask Ms. Simone to please come forward. We can move on to item number 9 on legislation, please, and regulation. Members would take out their legislation information.
Good afternoon. Please refer to your legislative packets, like Mr. Osofsky said. The first page of those packets is your tracker list. It's a list in the front with the various colored lines. The sponsor bills are in pink on that list, and we'll go over each of the sponsor bills. The bills that are outlined in blue will be the bills that need to be discussed at today's meeting. The bills in white, the board has already taken positions on, and discussion is not needed unless any members of the board would like to discuss. The bills in green at the bottom of that sheet are 2-year bills, and we will not discuss these bills at this time unless the board wishes to do so. Do any members have any questions on the bills in white or green? If not, let's start with an update on the bills in pink, and these are our board-sponsored bills. The first bill is AB 1127 Brownlee. This is a bill that will make it a violation of unprofessional conduct for a physician who is the subject of an investigation by the medical board to repeatedly fail, absent good cause, to attend and participate in an interview scheduled by mutual agreement between the physician and the board. As you probably know, the bill passed out of the legislature and signed on by the governor, so that bill will become law. So that's good news. The next sponsor bill is AB 1267 Halderman. This is a bill that would authorize the board to automatically place a physician's license on inactive status when a physician is incarcerated after the conviction of a misdemeanor. This bill would allow the board to disclose the reason for the inactive status on our website. This bill was amended in Senate Business and Professions Committee to require the board to move the physician's license back to its prior appropriate status within 5 business days of receiving notification. It's an amendment that the committee asked us to take and we agreed to take. Board staff believes that the 5-day timeline is reasonable and one that we can meet. It will also require us to do regulations to specify that process. This bill passed out of the legislature with no opposition and no votes. This bill has been enrolled and was sent to the governor on July 25th. Okay, our last sponsor bill is SB 541 Price. The board is co-sponsoring this bill along with the Contractor State Licensing Board. This is the bill that would enable all boards and bureaus in the Department of Consumer Affairs to continue to utilize expert consultants or reviewers in the same manner as in the past 25 plus years without having to go through the formal contracting process. If this bill passes, all boards will be allowed to complete a simplified contract, which would be 2 pages instead of a 20-page contract. And allow for an expedited process, including delegation to the various boards for the contracting authority. And there were some recent amendments to this bill, and just basically we added a provision that nothing in the bill should be construed to expand the scope of practice from an expert providing services. And it was just added to ensure that the expert services listed in the bill are not interpreted to expand their scope of practice. This bill will be heard in the Assembly Appropriations Committee on the first week they're back on August 17th, and so far has no votes, no opposition. Does anyone have questions on any of our sponsored bills? Okay. Then let's move on to 2011 legislation. And these are going to be the bills in blue on your tracker sheet. So the first bill we're going to go over is AB 536 MAW, and this bill is sponsored by the Union of American Physicians and Dentists. This is the bill that would have required the board to remove misdemeanor or felony convictions that were posted on our website. We've been receiving, after we receive a certified copy of an expungement order. As you probably remember at the last board meeting, the board voted to take an oppose unless amended position on the bill. And we suggested amendments to instead require the board to post notification of the expungement order and date of expungement on our website, but not remove the conviction. We met with the author's office and sponsors. Those amendments were taken, and so our opposition was removed. Since our amendments were taken, staff is suggesting a support position on this bill, but I'll need a motion.
Do you have a motion to support? Okay, now our discussion on questions. Any public comments? Okay, all those in favor of taking a support position on AB 536, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So done.
Thank you. The next bill is AB 584 Fong. This is sponsored by the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, the California Society of Industrial Medicine and Surgery, California Society of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation, and the Union of American Physicians and Dentists. This bill clarifies law to provide that physicians performing utilization review for injured workers must be licensed in California. This bill would ensure that any physician performing a review in California be regulated by the board. This bill is similar to bills in the past that the board had supported. And so since the board supported this legislation in the past, staff is recommending a support position. I'll need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any public discussion on the motion? Any comment or information necessary for the board? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So done. Thank you.
The next bill is HJR 13, which means Assembly Joint Resolution, and this is sponsored by the California Medical Association. This would urge the President and the U.S. Congress to continue to provide resources to increase the supply of physicians in California in order to improve access to care, particularly for Californians in rural areas and members of underrepresented ethnic groups. The resolution would also encourage the President and Congress to consider solutions that would increase the number of graduate medical education residency positions to keep pace with the growing number of medical school graduates and the growing need for physicians in California. Increasing the supply of physicians and residency slots will help to address the physician shortage, which may be exacerbated by the implementation of healthcare reform, and help to increase access to care, which is consistent with the mission of the board. Board staff suggests a support position on this resolution.
The motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment? Question by the members? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So done.
Thank you. The next bill is SB 100. I know we've gone over this bill before, but I kind of wanted to go over the recent amendments and the fact that they address our concerns, and now that we're in support, and just briefly kind of go over the requirements of the bill. Since I know this is an important subject for the board, I just want to make sure everyone understands kind of where we are and what this bill requires. So, like I said, this bill was brought to the board the last meeting, and we took a supportive amended position. It does many things to strengthen the oversight of outpatient settings by the accreditation agencies and the board, and increase information sharing between the accredited agencies and the board. So the concerns that we had before were basically all addressed. One had to do with some of the wording that they used. Let's see. To specify that only final inspection reports are public records, and that they need to include specific information, that to specify that inspections shall be on-site, and then to require the board to bring an action to an adjoining outpatient setting when appropriate. That was added instead of just requiring us to take an action on basically all complaints that we get. And it also added language to say through or in conjunction with the local district attorney. So these are the kind of the changes that we asked for. We met with BMT staff, and they made those changes. So the board is now in support. I'd just like to go kind of briefly through what the requirements are for us, what they are for the accreditation agencies, and what they are for the outpatient settings, and it will be brief. So for the board, it will require us to maintain a listing of information on outpatient settings on our website, including the name and address of owners of the facility, name and number of the accreditation agency, and the effective dates of accreditation. We are also required to update the website if the accreditation is revoked, suspended, or placed on probation. And so this will basically provide information for consumers and one-stop shopping. They can go to our website and get all this information. It requires us to adopt regulations regarding the appropriate level of physician availability needed within clinics or other settings for use of prescriptive lasers or intense pulse light devices for cosmetic procedures. This has been in every version of this bill, even in past years. It's in this version, and so we've supported that in the past, and we've done, as you all know, we've done some work on that issue. It also allows, so it's permissive, for us to adopt regulations to specify procedures that should be performed in an accredited setting for facilities or clinics that are outside the definition of an outpatient setting. This is to address the issue of right now, some of the procedures that are being done don't fall under the definition of having to be accredited. And so this allows us to take a look and see if there's, if the regulations that we want to adopt. It's not a requirement, but something that we can look at in the future. It requires the board to evaluate the accreditation agencies every 3 years, evaluate responses to complaints against an agency, and evaluate complaints against the accreditation of outpatient settings. It requires the inspection results, and these are inspection results that the accreditation agencies do for the outpatient settings, to be kept on file with the board, and along with the plan of correction and comments. And the amendment to that, the recent amendment, was it only requires that for it only makes the final reports public documents instead of all of the reports, and that's something that we asked for. It also requires the final report to include specified information to ensure that these reports from the accreditation agency are all including the same kind of information, and they're more standardized because they all have to include the list of deficiencies, the plan of correction for requirements, and notes when corrective action is completed, basically to ensure that they all have that valuable information in them. Okay, and it requires the board to investigate all complaints concerning a violation of this chapter. So it is basically for outpatient settings that are in operation but they're not accredited. So we would have to investigate those complaints, and we would bring an action to enjoin the outpatient settings operation when appropriate, and that action to enjoin would be done through or in conjunction with the local district attorney. And so that's how we would do that now. That's the appropriate way. Before it said the board or the local district attorney shall enjoin the action. We requested that it be when appropriate and through the DA. So those were amendments that we requested. Okay, so that's the requirements for the board. For the accreditation agencies, it requires accreditation agencies to conduct a reasonable investigation of the prior history of the outpatient setting as part of the accreditation process, including licensed physicians and surgeons who have an ownership interest to determine whether there have been any adverse accreditation decisions rendered against them. It also requires accreditation agencies to periodically inspect accredited outpatient settings. Inspections may be performed no less than once every 3 years, and inspections must be on-site. It requires accreditation agencies, upon receipt of a complaint from the board that an outpatient setting poses an immediate risk to public safety, to inspect that outpatient setting and report its findings to us within 5 business days. Accreditation agency also shall investigate any other complaints received by the board and report its findings to the board within 30 days. Requires accreditation agencies to notify the board when an outpatient setting accreditation is suspended, revoked, or denied, and to send a notification letter to the outpatient setting stating that the setting is no longer allowed to perform procedures that require accreditation. It also requires that outpatient setting to post the notification letter at a conspicuous location. And this is basically, a lot of these things relate to one another because in order for us to post this information on our website, they have to report it to us, so this is a requirement basically to allow us to have the information that we need to keep our website updated. And the last requirement for the accreditation agency, and this has to do with the accreditation shopping issue. So it specifies that if one accreditation agency denies, revokes, or suspends accreditation, the outpatient setting must reapply for accreditation. They can reapply at any accreditation agency, but they must disclose the full accreditation report to the new accrediting agency. The new accreditation agency must conduct a new on-site inspection before accrediting the setting to ensure that the deficiencies are corrected. And so this basically just prevents them from going from one to the other even though the deficiencies haven't been corrected. Okay, so now we're going to go on to for outpatient settings. This bill adds in vitro fertilization facilities or other assisted reproduction technology service to the definition of an outpatient setting that's been in past bills. It makes outpatient settings subject to adverse event reporting requirements and associated penalties that are in existing law for hospitals. Requires outpatient settings to submit for approval by an accreditation agency at the time of accreditation a detailed plan, standardized procedures and protocols to be followed in the event of serious complications or side effects from surgery that would place a patient at high risk for injury or harm, or to govern emergency and urgent care situations. It deletes a provision in existing law that allows outpatient settings with multiple service sites to only have a sample of those sites inspected. So now it will require all of the sites to be inspected. So there was a current law in the books and they just deleted that law. It requires an outpatient setting to comply with the corrective action identified in inspection within a time frame specified by the accreditation agency. If that setting does not comply, the accrediting agency shall issue a reprimand and may either place the setting on probation, suspend or revoke the accreditation, and again, they shall notify the board of that action, and that allows us to keep our stuff updated. And so those are the major requirements in SB 100. I just kind of wanted to go over them so everyone was clear on what the bill does now that we're in support. Since I took our amendments that we suggested, the board is now in support, so I don't need a motion unless anyone has questions or...
Questions?
It's pretty much just what's in the see here. Regarding the appropriate level of physician availability needed within clinics or other settings for use of prescriptive lasers or intense pulse light devices for elective cosmetic procedures, and that's on or before January 1st, 2013.
Does that answer your question? Page 4 of the bill?
It doesn't actually specify those, it's just saying it has to be done.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to go through the normal regulatory process that we'd have to have meetings with stakeholders and things like that. We have to draft up language, taking comments. It's the same process that we would follow for any regulation package. So you're going to be taking an input from stakeholders. We'll be, working, obviously we'll bring the language to the board to approve or not. So it would be the same process as we would do for any regulation package.
And you see that it's printed on page 4, lines 20, around there.
I see that part, yeah.
Okay, good. Question, Dr. Thompson?
Always confused with our jurisdiction as far as closing the facility versus we have authority on the physician that's using the facility. Can you help? So basically, clarify that a bit?
Well, so basically in the bill, how it's envisioned that we work, if we got a call at the board and they said, we think that this facility is operating, I can't find them, they're not listed, they're not accredited anywhere, we would do a preliminary kind of investigation. We would look into it as we would now for unlicensed kind of settings. We would look into it. We would, do an investigation and say, are they doing things that fall under the definition? Are they using that level of anesthesia? Okay. And then if we found out that they were, then we would work with the DA. We wouldn't necessarily be the one bringing the action, but we would work with that local district attorney's office to, it's depending on a lot of things, and that's why we added when appropriate. Because it could be that, they were doing that and then they stopped doing that level, and so now they no longer need to be accredited. So there's a lot of different issues at play. But if it turned out they were doing those procedures and they didn't stop, then we would work with the local DA to shut that facility down, basically. But it would really be an action that the district attorney would bring. We would kind of do the first initiation of the complaint.
So now it's going to be that we can kind of move against the facility, not just who might pass through it as a physician using it?
The district attorney's office currently has authority to close down an entity.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so that...
All right.
So I had a question.
But if the facility is already accredited, then we would have the accrediting agency check into what's going on, even though we may be investigating the physician.
And this would only be for facilities that are operating and they're not accredited, but they should be.
Okay.
So I have a couple of questions. With the notification, if you go to page 12, starting line 22, notification, notify the board of action. There's no time frame, or I'm not seeing a time frame that this has to happen within, and I'm wondering if somewhere else it might show.
Yeah, I believe that there's a time frame for revocations. It's 3 business days. So they do put a time frame on the revocations because they want to get that information, and we're required to report that on our website. For the other stuff, I believe it's in the bill. If you just give me a minute while I'm
That's fine. While you're looking for that, is there anywhere within the bill that states that this accreditation certification needs to be on file at the surgery center, available for public view?
I don't believe that there is. Okay. So it looks like there is a 24-hour that they notify the board, and I guess we don't have to get on our website till 3 business days. So they do have to notify us within 24 hours of any of those things. Suspended, revoked, reprimand.
So it's within the language of the law, but I'm just not seeing it.
Exactly. It is.
Go to page 11, line 26. So the accreditation agency shall within 24 hours report to the board of the
Thank you.
outcome.
Apologize. Thank you very much. Dr. Lee?
Just a question. What you read to us said that the board shall evaluate the accrediting agencies. And what does that mean? What do we do with the results of the evaluation? Does the board have jurisdiction over the accrediting?
Well, we do because we do approve the accreditation agencies. So we do have jurisdiction over the accrediting agencies.
And what does that translate into practically?
It would be verifying that they're doing the job that they're supposed to be doing. Are they notifying us within that 24-hour period? Are they giving us the information we need to post for consumers? Have they set up rules on how they inspect? What do they inspect? Do they have policies and procedures? All of those kind of things would be part of our evaluation, and they do have to apply every 3 years for that.
So the enforcement is withholding of approval of the reapplication.
Right. Thank you. Continue, please.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, I'll move on to the next bill. Okay, SB 380 Right is sponsored by the California Academy of Preventative Medicine. This is the bill that would have originally required specified physicians to complete a one-time continuing medical education course in the subject of nutrition and lifestyle behavior for the prevention and treatment of chronic diseases. This bill was amended. It would now authorize the board to set content standards so it's permissive for any educational activity concerning a chronic disease that includes appropriate information on the impact, prevention, and cure of the chronic disease. Recent amendments also require the board to periodically disseminate information and educational material regarding the prevention and treatment of chronic disease by the application of changes in nutrition and lifestyle behavior, and we will be required to give this to each licensed physician in each general acute care hospital in California. Recent amendments also require the board to convene a working group of interested parties to discuss nutrition and lifestyle behavior for the prevention and treatment of chronic disease at a quarterly board meeting, and this would have to be done within 3 years of the effective date of the bill. The language recently added, basically the purpose is to help ensure that physicians receive educational material on the prevention and treatment of chronic disease by requiring us to disseminate this information. This could be done in our newsletter, and we could work with the Department of Public Health to get that information out to general acute care hospitals. And it also opens the topic up for discussion at one of the board's quarterly board meetings. Board staff is suggesting a neutral position on this bill.
A motion? Oh, we don't need a motion for that. We do. A motion, please, to support a neutral position on this bill?
So moved.
Any public comment? Any questions or comments from the board members? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So
Thank you.
passed.
The next bill is SB 824. We previously have a support position on this bill now. It was amended. So before, this had to do with the registered dispensing optician acquiring ownership of a business. It would have basically required the new owner and the previous owner to turn in both sets of paperwork within 10 days. We took a support position on this because we believed that it basically would make our process run more effectively. Now sometimes we have issues getting the paperwork from the old owner and the new owner. We basically have to wait for that to be able to match it up and process that. So we had taken a support position. However, the amendments now only put a 10-day timeline on the RDO assuming ownership, which really doesn't do a lot for us because then we still have to wait for that paperwork. And so staff is suggesting, because it's no longer really doing anything to help our process run more smoothly, to now just take a neutral position on this bill. So I'll need a motion.
A motion, support of a neutral position we've done, correct? Okay, we have a motion for a neutral position.
So moved.
Second?
Yes.
Any public comment? Any comment or questions from the board? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so done.
Thank you. Okay, and then SB 943, which is the BMP omnibus bill. The position that affects the board clarifies the grandfathering provisions and existing law related to polysomnographic technologists. It would authorize current practitioners to be grandfathered in by allowing them to apply for registration as a certified technologist if they submit proof to the board of 5 years of experience in practicing polysomnography in a manner that's acceptable to the board. And it would allow the current practitioners 3 years to meet the new requirements for certification. The bill that passed, SB 132, that established the polysomnography program included a grandfathering provision. However, the way it was drafted, it was ambiguous, and it was basically added to one paragraph instead of being added to a new paragraph, so the effect was it only applied to that particular paragraph. The clarifying language will reflect the original intent and allow the board to implement the grandfathering provision, and which will also help to ensure that there's not a disruption in patient access. They will still be required to meet the requirements, but not for 3 years. And so staff is suggesting that the board support the provision in the bill related to the polysomnography program. I will need a motion.
You have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second? Thank you. Any public comment? Any comment or questions from the board? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. So done.
So that concludes my presentation on 2011 legislation. Are there any questions? Okay, then let's move on to 9B, which is 2012 legislation. Okay, so the first item I'd like to update you on is our omnibus language. We have 3 items. One was for midwifery reporting terminology, and the other 2 were for licensing. It did not make it into the omnibus bill. Senate B&P committee staff has committed to putting this language in next year's omnibus bill, and the board's language will be included in the introduced bill, which will likely be introduced very early in December. And so they've committed to doing that for us. The next issue I would like to talk to you about is the UCLA International Medical Graduate Program, which Ms. Whitney presented on at our last board meeting. This is the program that was founded by Dr. Dowling and Dr. Bolat. It was brought to the board's attention that legislation for this program may be needed to allow their participants to obtain clinical experience, and this would require a statute change. It could be accomplished by making that program a pilot project. The board approved this concept and agreed to possibly be a co-sponsor along with the University of California. Board staff has been working with the University of California, and we have jointly decided to go forward with this proposal next year. This will give us more time to work on and fine-tune this proposal and allow it to move through the legislative process within the normal time frames instead of rushing it through the process into the end of the year. And the next item I'd like to talk to you about is the Vertical Enforcement Program report. We have requested that Senate Business and Professions Committee change the sunset date of the VEP report and program to coincide with our sunset date. As you probably know, our sunset date was moved back a little bit, and so before that happened, they coincided. The VEP program sunset and report was at the same time as our sunset, but when that got changed, the VEP program did not get changed. So we requested that Senate BNP change law to basically make both of those dates coincide. Unfortunately, I just found out while I was here that we're unsuccessful with this request. So we will be completing the VEP report by March 1st, 2012, and based on upon the outcomes of that report, possibly sponsor legislation to extend the program. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. The last update I would like to give on 2012 legislation is to let you know that this week on Monday I was contacted by the California Medical Association related to a physician health program they are working with their coalition on to establish. They have requested that board staff meet with them on this issue, and we will be doing so on Tuesday, August 2nd. I'm assuming this is a proposal for 2012, that's because it's so late in the 2011 session. The legislature is on break until August 15th, and then it ends in September, so that's what I'm assuming. I don't yet, CMA has not yet sent me language, so I don't know at what stage this proposal is, if it's conceptual or not. A lot of the specifics, I don't know, like how it's going to be funded and things like that, but the meeting on Tuesday will be with myself, Ms. Whitney, CMA, and members of their coalition, so I'll have more to report at the next meeting. And so that concludes my legislative report if there's no further questions.
We have a member of the CMA board still in the room. Dean, would you like to clarify, is this for 212 or 2 what? Please.
I wasn't the one that contacted Jennifer on this. However, as far as I know, in May 2012, we are chock full of other legislative items right now.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Morrison. Any further questions for her? Thank you very much for your report. So now we're going to Move on to item number C, the status of regulatory action. Mr. Shumke? C, would you please come forward and we'll continue on page 72, which is behind tab number 9.
Good afternoon, members. You do have on page 72 of your agenda packet the matrix we create to bring you up to date on the status of all of our regulations. One edit to be made since this was published, the second row from the bottom in regards to the clinical training programs for international medical students. This was the petition that came forward from the City of Hope. I have been able to finalize, or we have been able to finalize this file, and it was submitted to the Office of Administrative Law for final review on July 15th. In regards to the others listed there, do you have any questions on any of them?
Any questions? Well, thank you very much. Now we're going to move back to agenda item number 4. Mr. Warden, would you please come forward and present your licensing report?
Okay, I'll start by giving you an update on the 5 business process re-engineering recommendations, and staff has been working on the new application. They are in various stages of draft on several of the forms. They do have some of the forms that are ready for review by management. That project has been a little bit slowed down due to the need to process licenses for our graduate medical education people and making sure they have their licenses on time. The website is reviewed and updated at the same time as those changes are made. The staff has not made a determination on whether or not the PTAL should be a separate application at this time. And the new management reports have been completed, and the update on the policy and procedures manuals are not moving forward due to staffing issues. We have a special faculty committee meeting scheduled for September 15th. We're not sure if that meeting will be at that date or not, due to whether or not the applications are ready. We have one specialty board application that's still waiting for a response back from the specialty board. The Poly-Som programs final statement of reasons has been reviewed to legal and is, I believe, back with some edits. Staff will be working on moving that forward. I'll now move to item 4A, which is regarding staffing. First off, I'd like to thank all of the licensing staff for doing an outstanding job providing, getting all of our licenses issued in timely manner for the 2065 and 2066 license exemptions. This was done without any overtime by any of the staff except for managers. And we used everybody.
The big bucks.
Yes. We used everybody in our office, and everybody chipped in, whether it was from the call center, cashiering, the front staff, even people in the fictitious name permit and other areas, all chipped in to help that out. We currently have 10.6 vacant positions in licensing. That's a huge vacancy for us. We have 3 vacant AGPA positions, which is also, that's like 50% of my AGPAs. Okay, so I have just filled 2 of my...
What's an APA?
It's an associate government program analyst, an upper level analyst that do the more technical work for us. So they do the international medical schools, which I don't have anybody doing. That's sort of my job now. But we have those vacancies. One of them would be doing our policy and procedures manuals and doing the training of staff. We don't have that person at this time. at being able to work on that. So we have those vacancies. We had vacancies for international medical school reviewers. We've just filled 2 of those reviewers. However, that caused 2 more openings in my U.S. reviewers. Okay, so as far as that goes, I also anticipate 3 more vacancies coming up within the next 2 months within our SSAs. I have 2 vacant MSTs, which we just offered positions to. However,
Excuse me, do me a favor, instead of the alphabet soup, could you identify?
the 2 U.S. reviewers, we just made offers to fill our 2 vacancies. However, that created 2 more vacancies for my office technicians, which now means I will have 7.5 vacant OT positions starting next month.
Office technicians?
Office technicians, which is the phone center, cashiering, and the front staff for doing the all the mail that comes into the licensing program. We are severely impacted by that. So at this time, we have basically approximately 19% vacancy rate in licensing. 19% vacancy rate in licensing.
When do you think we might see that affecting the work load or the work output, work product?
Well, it sort of already has. I cannot process international medical school applications in a timely manner for the new international medical schools. We have delays in processing. As you have seen, some of our time frames for our international, and not our international reviews right now, but those will be starting to go up because it's becoming more of a busy season for them. But the U.S. files and the review dates have gone up somewhat. We do have it taking longer to cashier the payments, it's taking longer to prepare the files, it's taking longer for the phones to be answered and phone calls to be returned.
So I just want to make sure that Ms. Chung's admonitions before and her error before is not going to become what's going to happen to the medical board. So if she knows something before we do, we're not going to appreciate that. Continue, please.
It definitely is impacting our ability to do our job. If we don't have any further questions, I will move on more to the actual item 4B, which was our outreach to the graduate medical education programs last year. This was with Mr. Chunky's assistance. He did a great job of going out into the licensing programs, doing licensing fairs, by doing that, it creates a more even workload in licensing throughout the year, which is one of the reasons why we were able to do what we did without overtime. Without that, we would definitely need overtime, and there would have been a severe amount of doctors who would not have received their licenses in a timely manner. As of July 1st, if you looked on page 46 of your packet, was an idea. We had 43 hospitals who participated in our program. They submitted 1,225 applications to us. We had received 1,186 applications. 50 of those applications were removed from the matrix as not being true a 2065 or 2066 person. We had already reviewed 11 of those applications before they were removed. At the time of July 1st, we had reviewed 1,185 of the applications out of 1,186.
Wow.
Basically as of today, or yesterday when I checked, we only had, and we also allowed the programs to include just out-of-state people they had hired who needed a license or peaked out to do their postgraduate training program. So that includes peaked outs for the participants who needed a peaked out or out-of-state residents who needed a license to continue training in California because they accepted a position in California. Out of that group, I have 6 U.S. files and 3 IMG files who have not completed all their files. So out of that 1,186, we have basically 9 files that are on.
I have to interrupt you. I hope everyone heard that, and that's quite amazing.
Indeed, quite an accomplishment.
Quite an accomplishment, thank you.
And we did have one person who needed a license July 1st, but unfortunately they did not apply until July 13th.
The question is going to be, how long can one sustain this kind of effort?
That's what I'm trying.
We can't. Okay. It is not sustainable without getting staff.
We're trying, and the board needs to be aware of this issue. Staff is very well aware of this issue, so they're working on it.
Okay.
And as far as the rest of what this outreach does for this, Mr. Chunky will go into more detail on that in his presentation, but that's just sort of the numbers of what was done. If there are no further questions, I will go to item 4C, which is the program statistics, which begin on page 47. I'm not going to go through all the statistics one by one, but I will point out some of the changes that we had. We received 3,176 more telephone calls the last fiscal year, 2010-2011, than in 2009 and 2010. We received 269 more physician applications in 2010-11 than we did in 2009-2010. The board renewed 1,842 more physician licenses in 2010 and 2011 than they did in 2009-2010. On page 51 of your, 52 of your statistic report is a 5-year history of the physician and surgeon's license issued and for the physician licenses and PTAL applications received. So you can have an idea by quarter for each of those fiscal years and how they were affected. In your packet on page 53 was the board's production report for the week of July 9th. We had an increase in the days needed to review the U.S. files that had gone up to 48 days, which is still within our statutory requirement. And for the international grads, it was at 35. The days to review mail, I take that back. The days to review mail was 11, and for U.S. and for the IMGs it was 7. For this last week, we had reduced those days down to 41, the number of days for U.S. files to be reviewed, and for the net mail to be reviewed was down to 11. For the international files, it was 34, and the days to review mail was 7. I also wanted to point out that as my U.S. file reviewers, I have a total of 8 positions. I will have 5 new people in those positions doing training. So it takes 6 months, easy 6 months, to get a U.S. file reviewer up to a comfortable speed of reviewing files. We will also be experiencing something similar to that in the international files. They're even more complicated, so depending on who is taking those, they take 6 months to a year to be fully trained and comfortable with doing those files. And we will have 5 people once we fill the vacancies who are in training. So those will also affect our numbers. Okay, so and then to agenda That actually can go to the international medical schools, which is agenda item 4D, which is on page 55.
It kind of relates to your statistics. I'm not sure if it was just in one of your reports, and we don't always get this, but I personally found it interesting, the cases, the percentage that have the problems, because that's a real nice reflection of how hard you guys are working, the level 1 and level 2 problems. I don't know if that's a statistic that's hard to glean, and it wouldn't need to be in every report, but I think it is a nice index of just that you're ferreting out issues and what the quality of the applicants are like.
Okay, I'll make note of that. I think it might have been in there, but I'm not positive.
All right, thank you.
I may have left that out.
Don't worry, in the future,
No, no, for the future.
the future's fine.
Yeah.
As for the international medical schools update, you will see that I provided you with a memo regarding where we're at. We will have one school that the board will be reviewing tomorrow for recognition. And then we also have a matrix that's following that of schools that are in the review process or have been reviewed for either compliance with California Code of Regulations Section 1314.1, and the schools are divided into two categories of 1314.1, which are the A1 schools, which are government or nonprofit schools run by an oversight of the government that they're in, that's designed to train the citizens of their countries for medical school education. The A2 schools are designed for international medical schools whose primary purpose is to train citizens not of that country, but for medical education. The school you're reviewing tomorrow is an A2 school, and we do have A2 schools listed here, but we also have the A1 schools here that are listed that we have determined that meet the requirements of A1s, and that we now recognize for the to add to our list of recognized schools. So they meet the requirements as being a government-run school or government-recognized school where the primary education is for their citizens.
If I may, Mr. Warden realized that he wasn't providing you with a complete update of all of the activity regarding international medical schools, and only telling you about those that have full applications. And so he decided that he needed to provide you more information about the workload that really is going on in licensing regarding international programs that are coming to his attention. Many of these schools, of course, are recognized via legal review and materials that they submit, and they don't have to come to the attention of the board. But you needed to understand the heavy workload that he has in the international school program. Thank you.
So, and when we come across these schools, they are required to provide proof to us before we determine they actually meet that requirement. So, and then to go on to that, we have our list of our previously recognized schools by the board with their proposed reevaluation states. We have revised this list twice now, and I just had to revise it again because we do not have the staffing to work on doing the proper evaluations for the reevaluations right now. That is one of the vacant positions that we have. And so I have redevised the schedule, and that is obviously going to depend on whether or not we have the staffing. So that basically concludes my report, and if you have any other questions,
Any questions from any members of the board? Public comment? You don't have any public comment? Thank you, Mr. Warden. You should know that this board is very appreciative of the efforts over and above the necessary day-to-day operation of your department, and that you've come through again this quarter, and we really very much admire your leadership. Thank you. Mr. Schenke, would you please come forward, and we'll continue on item number 5, please. Licensing outreach.
Thank you. Nice to be with you again today. And following along with what Kurt talked about in the licensing program, on page 56 in your agenda under item number tab is a memo which I prepared for you to bring you up to speed on what's happening with my outreach or education program. This memo actually is a little bit lengthier than what many of you need. We were anticipating that hopefully we might have some new board members today and therefore would be able to use this as an educational tool. I think Kurt touched on a new historical milestone that we've reached. Milestones are usually something good. This time, as he mentioned, for applicants who needed a license by July 1 in order to continue our training program. We've usually received applications during the last week of June. This is the first time that we have received an application 13 days after the deadline to get someone licensed. We received one application on July 13th for someone who needed the license to continue on July 1. If you will look on page 58 in your agenda packet, the memo I prepared, my plans for outreach this year for licensing fairs throughout the state encompass only 9 overnight trips throughout the rest of the year, covering both Northern California and Southern California. We have submitted a request to the Department of Consumer Affairs for an exemption from the governor's restriction on travel. That request is still pending. We're hoping that action will soon be taken. We have received written notification from the first one, UCSD, and I've received queries from other teaching hospitals that they plan to cancel the licensing fairs altogether if I'm not able to travel and attend the meetings. It's unfortunate, it's much to my chagrin that they would do so, because I think there is a tremendous benefit still to be offered to the residents by having a notary, a fingerprinter, and a photographer there, and to help them with the process. But they question the viability and the need to continue with it. We have tried to express to the Department of Consumer Affairs, and underscoring what Kurt said this in his report, that the licensing work this year was achieved without any overtime, other than the dedication of obviously Kurt and his management team. By no means can this outreach program that I work on be the only impetus behind that. Kurt has brought about significant improvements in the program, but I think it will also be blind of us not to recognize that there are benefits to be gained, not only for the residents, not only for the teaching hospitals, but where we will be in April, May, June of next year, and the backlog we potentially will face if the licensing education program is not continued. In very basic, simple terms, it's an early initial review of the application process. And if problems can be identified, if deficiencies, if a failure to complete an application is identified before they even submit the application, it helps in the process later on, and it's one less thing to identify in the deficiency letter. If you turn over to page 59, I have addressed the new resident orientation programs to which I was invited to attend this year. Unfortunately, attendance at all of these was declined by the Department of Consumer Affairs, but luckily, orientation is a little bit different from a licensing fair. And in coordinating with Loma Linda, I was able to do a teleconference presentation to them. Following my presentation at New Resident Orientation for the true first-year residents,
by the next morning, I had telephone calls from 7 individuals who either had criminal history, substance abuse issues, and so on, and I was able to talk to them and at least address those issues and encourage them to start the process early.
Get an attorney now.
Pardon?
Tell me get an attorney now, start working.
Yes. So that gives you the information that I have. Is there anything you would like me to add?
Any questions? Yes, Dr. Simonson?
How can we more disseminate this information to, I guess, DCA, who hopefully could make a difference? I just think, I mean, we praise you every time, but you're singing to the choir here, but between your licensing fairs, but also this new resident orientation, I just think it's tragic that not continue. And other than just bemoaning it, how can this information get disseminated?
Your deputy director has been in contact with the department on a regular basis. I'm aware that Ms. Kirkmeyer did contact them.
We also, Ms. Jane and I met with the agency secretary as well, with our executive director and assistant director, to make a push for this. The expectation...
Can a potential case be made of how not having the overtime because of the licensing fairs? I mean, listening to
The issue is do you reward bad behavior or do you reward good behavior? In the situation right now that we're in economically in the state, there's been little reward for good behavior. We were led to believe that hopefully within a reasonable period of time, once the budget had been passed, that there would be a relaxation of the rules and regs as far as travel. Unfortunately, currently the agency secretary is not in the room, but she is expected. So that might be a question you would like to address to her directly. We appreciate, Kevin, without question, you should know. I think we all were in the situation, remembering a year and 2 years back, where we were in licensing, and how bad we were, and what we were authorizing. And forget authorizing just licensing staff. Anybody that could have, something between the ears was being authorized for overtime to make sure it happened. And regardless of their knowledge, every single person stepped up to the plate. And participated to make sure that we weren't worse off than we were. For that, we're appreciative. But by the same token, that's not how you run an organization. It's not efficient, and it's not smart, and it's burnout. And I'm glad we're promoting right and left. But you know what? We've got too many holes in the system. So to be honest with you, I think our staff, you all should know that the staff is really engaged with this. They're well aware of it, but their hands are tied. So when the appropriate person is in the room, and you have that opportunity to speak to that person, please address your questions. Dr. Dusson?
Just a couple of questions. The teleconferencing that you did for the orientation won't work for the licensing workshop.
No, unfortunately, it was another question which was asked of me during lunch today. The licensing fair, I literally sit down for about 3 to 5 minutes with every resident individually. I look at the application, I go through the application. As a well-trained staff member in the licensing would do, I know what to look for on the application, what boxes have been checked, if they put down their date of birth being Chicago, Illinois, things like that. That's what we look for.
Sure.
And that type of interaction cannot be provided for a licensed fair.
One more question. This is very significant, obviously, and it's significant for the training program. And I can speak for the university training center that I work with. I don't know if we or anybody has approached these centers for participation. And I don't know if we would be allowed by the state, but I would almost venture to say that some of them might be willing to participate financially to pay for the travel.
The law is quite specific. The law states specifically no travel. Expense is not part of the discussion because our budget has the money in the budget to pay for this.
I see.
We have money that the state is using currently to the tune of $15 million borrowed. So the issue is not money, it's principle. And it's not principle, it's smoke and mirrors as far as I'm concerned. So, it's perception versus reality. So I apologize for that. It's a political statement. But the problem is that we are losing out in the race to be efficient and effective. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with policies and procedures that are inappropriate, in my opinion, of course. Dr. Salmonson?
Well, since you've developed such a wonderful working relationship with the GME departments, do you think they could be enlisted to pass on their desire to have you come?
We've had letters of commendation.
Everyone is contacted.
Everyone has done what they need to do.
There are probably a dozen offers to pay. You know, they understand the benefit of the program and recognize the detriment to their own residents, to their training programs, and the workload to us next spring and next summer. So
I think they're just going to have to move to Southern California.
No, I was thinking maybe we should have all the students that are applying come to Sacramento.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Shunke. We're going to move on our agenda to item number 6, the Midwifery Advisory Council update. But prior to that, Mr. Warden, if you would come forward and address item number 6. Apologize.
I'm addressing number 6A of your packet, which is page 61. At the April 7th MAC meeting, the Midwifery Advisory Council meeting, there was nominations for 2 Midwifery Advisory Council member positions. At that meeting, they nominated to reappoint Carrie Sparavon and Ms. Yaroslavsky to their positions. So this was after the meeting, and during the meeting we had 5 applications for licensed midwives for that position and 4 for the public leaders. After they determined that Ms. Yaroslavsky and Ms. Sparavon still wanted to continue, all of those people withdrew their applications. So the board, or the Midwifery Advisory Committee, unanimously supported the 2 nominees. So we are requesting that the board appoint the 2 members to the MAC.
So I need a motion from the board
to reappoint them.
To reappoint. So moved in a second? Okay, any public discussion? Any questions or public comments from the board? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so done. Thank you. Motion carries. I would ask Ms. Ehrlich to please come forward and present on 6B.
Good afternoon to everyone. First of all, the Midwifery Council is just delighted to have Barbara Yaroslavsky and Carrie Sparavon continue on with us. I would like to simply express that at some point we would really like the medical board to consider expanding the Midwifery Council by 2 members. The mandate that established us says that at least half of the members must be licensed midwives. I personally believe that it is incredibly important that we have on the council a parent who has been cared for by a licensed midwife to bring the parent's voice to our discussions. But in order to have a parent added, we're going to have another licensed midwife added in order to keep us at half. I also think that that would be a benefit because we could really look at trying to get somebody from Southern California to represent those midwives' voices. Over the years, we have come to realize that there are some big differences between how midwives work in Southern California and how we work and think in Northern California, and I think that it would be of benefit to us. So that would be a request down the line. I understand the financial issues that are going on in the state and would not necessarily ask for it to be immediate. I am a bit concerned about the cancellation of the meeting, which I again completely understand. I know that Cheryl Thompson has far more than one person's work to do, and she is absolutely wonderful to us and with us. I would not ask that she be given more work to do at this point. And I understand and appreciate the reasons why this meeting had to be canceled. I am a bit concerned about the fact then that we do not have any contact with each other now until December. The original mandate for the council was for us to meet 4 times a year in between the medical board meetings. That got moved down to 3, and because we only had 3 scheduled, now that we've canceled one of them, we only have 2 this year. I do find this to be disturbing because I think we do need to be in more active contact with each other to move midwifery forward in the state. I don't think it is possible, but I do find myself wondering about having a teleconference if indeed we have to cancel a meeting, simply to be able to update ourselves on what's going on. And my question then is, if that is true, does that have to be noticed, which I would imagine it does?
Yes.
Is it possible for it to take the place of a meeting that has to be canceled?
I think we should leave that up to staff. I can hear your concerns. You know, you should know that I'm very disappointed as well to have canceled that meeting. But I understand. I'm not arguing with that part. Okay. I know that Dr. Carrion asked that we talk about mortality in the state. I understand that that is going to be on next medical board meeting's agenda. I happen to have DVDs addressing reducing infant mortality, which is tied, of course, to maternal mortality as well. And I have a copy of these for each of you. I would ask that you perhaps take a listen to them. They are, I think it's about 27 minutes long. Thank you. So it's not terribly long. I would ask if, after you have listened to them, what you would be doing with them is putting them in the trash, consider recycling them to me so that I can put them into more circulation. In June, I attended the International Confederation of Midwives Triennial Congress, which this year was in Durban, South Africa, which was very exciting to be able to go to. I wanted to let the medical board know that there are changes coming in international midwifery by the ICM with the complete endorsement of the World Health Organization and the International Federation of Gynecologists and Obstetricians. They have put together a whole set of standards which I have yet to absorb. This is what it is, so you can see it's not minimal. They are really looking hard at international standards for the education of midwives that are informed by the core competencies that they are redefining, at the regulation of midwifery in any individual country throughout the world, and at support of associations in being able to implement midwifery as the ICM is envisioning it for the future. One of the biggest issues to the ICM is that midwifery is and continue to be an autonomous profession that has collaboration and consultation with the medical world. This is the standard throughout the world, and in fact, California is the only place anywhere in the world that I am aware of that requires supervision by a physician, because it doesn't work. It hasn't anywhere in the world, and it doesn't here. So anybody who wants to see these, I'm happy to have copies made, or I can give you the URLs where you could go to be able to investigate more about the new standards that the ICM is putting forth. Thank you. Are there any questions directly? Okay. If anyone is interested in those, Kurt, you'll take them. Kurt Warden. Oh, sorry, he's back. I'm not sure that he wants them yet, so I'm not sure you're willing to give them up yet, but if they are as a need, that's the person who you'd give them to, okay?
Very good, thank you.
Madam Chair, regarding the request that they have brought before about increasing the number of members,
yes.
Does that have to be done legislatively?
No, that is a medical board decision. The legislature, the mandate in the law simply said at least half must be licensed midwives.
Is that something that we can address maybe in a future meeting, because I know we made this request?
That has been moved by this board at our last meeting to send back to the council to come up with a full plan on that. and it then would come back to the board. So it will be addressed in December.
So that'll be on the agenda for the next council meeting?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I'm going to move on the agenda. I know that we've been sitting here for 2 hours, but in the interest of time, since we do have a quorum present, I'm going to use the chair's prerogative to break in our agenda and introduce a very special guest. I've asked her to come forward to address our meeting this afternoon. Secretary of State and Consumer Affairs, the Secretary of State and Consumer Services Agency, Ana Caballero, also serves as a member of the Cabinet of Governor Jerry Brown. Caballero's responsibility as Secretary includes the oversight of departments charged with civil rights enforcement, consumer protection, and the licensure for 2.4 million working professionals. As a former member of the California State Assembly, she previously was mayor and councilperson and served as a local elected official in Salinas, California for 15 plus years. A graduate of the UCLA Law School and the UC San Diego undergraduate program, she is dedicating her professional life to the people of the Salinas Valley. She first put her legal acumen to work representing farm workers as an attorney for California Rural Legal Assistance. Dedicated to representing working families at a price that they could afford, she, along with 2 colleagues, formed a law firm that has received much mention and many accolades in its 25-year history. Born to a family of copper miners from Arizona, Caballero has dedicated her working life to empowering working families and to create opportunities for them and their children to be successful. While in the Assembly, she received numerous awards for her work in youth violence prevention, protection of local government, support for public school construction, and water reliability and sustainability. Prior to her election to the Assembly, Ms. Caballero also established a nonprofit organization dedicated to youth violence prevention in Salinas called Partners for Peace, which help parents and youth to develop stronger family bonds and encourage healthy behavior. They focused on supporting early childhood development, literacy, after-school activities, youth employment, and high school dropout prevention strategies throughout the development of partnerships with other organizations. I want to welcome you today and look forward to your remarks. Mrs. Ana Caballero, I'm sorry. Ms. Your Royal Highness.
Thank you very, very much, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm hoping that introduction is not longer than my remarks here today. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for allowing me and inviting me to come and speak with you today. First, let me thank you very much for your service on this board. It's really important work that you do, and I know you appreciate that, but it's my opinion that you need to be lauded and applauded and thanked very, very much. You not only lift up the profession with the work that you do by making sure that those that are practicing the profession are the best and that they follow the rules, but also you protect the public, and that's very, very important as well. And I think it's one of those shining moments for California that we have such a strong consumer protection agency, and you're part of that, so thank you very much for your service. I thought what I would do today, you heard a little bit about me, but I thought what I'd do is to give you greetings on behalf of the governor. I serve on his cabinet, and I'm honored to do that. But more importantly, I really believe in what this governor is trying to do, which is to really right the ship in regards to our fiscal responsibility, and also to chart a course for where California is going to go in the future. And I think in my opinion, he's doing an admirable job of that, despite some really, really difficult challenges. So let me start off by saying that I know that you're an independent organization, and that in that regard, you make the rules and you also do the discipline, and I want to be an ally for you to the governor's office. I recognize your independence, and I salute that, but I think we have an opportunity to work together. Having said that, I think there were some policies from the past administration that have really hampered your efforts. The furlough and the freezes of the positions, or the freezing of positions, has really, I think, devastated the Consumer Affairs Department. And so my first charge coming on as secretary has been to to encourage the boards to do freeze exemptions so that we can start staffing up and doing the job that you were asked to do as a board member. So far, we've had a very, very high success rate in getting those freeze exemptions approved. And I want to continue to do that. I want to continue to look at ways to be able to get you staffed up. Part of that is related to the budget, and let me just say that I recognize that you are funded separately. You do not receive any general fund money. There's two pieces of the organization. One, the Franchise Tax Board, which brings in money. They were furloughed and had frozen positions as well. It made absolutely no sense. We lost the opportunity to bring in money that we needed to bring in. And your boards, I recognize it's bad management if you ask me. What is happening? So there's two things I wanted to talk about. One was to talk about staffing up and helping you meet your mission, but the other part is the budget, and I thought I'd give you the latest update on what's happening. As you know, the governor proposed extensions of taxes that were increased 2 years ago. That would have provided an opportunity to start repaying special funds and debt obligations that the state has. Special funds are owed money. And the more, if we can get the revenue in, then we can start paying that back. Our balance sheet looks better, and our credit rating is stronger. Unfortunately, the governor was not able to get a 2/3 vote in order to do that. And so in order to balance the budget, what was done is among a number of things, one of which was to reduce state services. So there have been reductions, fairly significant, I would say. If you work, as many of you do in the medical profession, you know that many of the services that are provided to the poorest among us, to the most ill, to the elderly, to the young, have been cut severely over time. So all of that has been done. There has been significant downsizing, including commissions and boards that have been eliminated, and there are more that are being planned over the next year. But one of the things that was done is that the revenue for this year, this calendar year, has been up most months. And as a consequence, the governor was able to project that over the long term, and to predict that the state would see $4 billion more than what he projected in January. What you do, basically how the budget is put together, is you project what happened the last 12 months towards the next 12 months. The past 12 months, when it was in January, was very significantly down. The economy is coming back, not as strong as most of us would like to see. Unemployment continues to be very high. But between January and May, the revenues were up. So they projected those revenue, rather than taking the 12 months before, they took the 6 months and projected, and that is a $4 billion projection, number one. Number two is there, in the budget, includes a $400 million unallocated reduction. And what that means is that it wasn't allocated to any particular department. Now what finance is doing is going through and allocating that $400 million. And so all of the departments will see reductions. I had asked prior to right around the May revise, actually it was before the May revise, I had asked all of the departments to come to me with a plan to reduce 5%. It was a number I picked out of the air. It was an attempt to get a sense of what departments have made cuts and what departments could make more cuts, and what would it look like if they made the end of March. So I had about a month, and then said, let's see what the agency, which is SCSA agency, is somewhere in the neighborhood of about $2 million. It's not 5% of the total of all the budget, so it will be significantly less. And frankly, it won't end up affecting any of the boards. It'll affect the department, and so they'll have to flatten the organization, and that's what we've been talking about doing in any case.
given that there have been hiring freezes for the past month and probably for at least another month, that will probably take care of some of the unallocated reduction. My point in all of this is that I had asked for the departments to prepare a plan for 5%, so it would give me an idea of where we need to go. I'm going to ask them to finish that plan because we have $4 billion in revenue that has been projected. If it doesn't come in, then we're going to be back at the table in December looking at cuts. And I want to have a plan for where I'd like to see those cuts happen in a way that does not affect the public, that does not affect our services, and where we can get some economies by, and we're doing a number of things, moving into smaller spaces. You've heard the governor's executive orders in regards to vehicles, phones, the ability to store or bring vehicles home. All of those things are being taken very, very seriously, and we're working through trying to figure out how do we still get the job done. And you know, you have investigators out there. They need BlackBerries, they need access to the internet, they need cars. We want to continue doing the work that needs to get done, but we also want to be a little bit more efficient on how we do it. And so we're working on it. The budget for this year is we're going to be looking at it, scrutinizing it very, very carefully, because we want to make sure we're doing the right things and we're not cutting our nose off to spite our face, if you will. But that we're doing it in a real responsible manner and not doing the kinds of things like furloughing franchise tax board staff who bring in revenue, and not furloughing the boards and commissions that really have a mandate and who are specially funded and shouldn't be part of the general fund exercise. So those are my two main messages here today. I see, consider me an ally, your voice in the governor's office. A footnote to add to the budget discussion is that what the governor intends once the unallocated reductions get identified. So what happens is finance has given us our number. We have to come with a plan and we have to show them how it's going to work. It's going to be tracked on a monthly basis. And once that's done, the freeze exemptions will end. And so people will be expected to live within their budgets. And that means that it'll be a lot smoother process to be able to do the hiring that we need to do to fill the positions that will provide an opportunity for work to get done. So that's a real incentive, but I do add as another footnote that we do have that $4 billion. It's a hope and a prayer, I guess is the best way to say it. I want to believe that the economy is turning around. It looks, I mean, I travel. I can't believe all of the airports are full. People are buying things. The stores, or people are at the stores, and so I think that while the economy is moving in the right direction, we're not out of the woods yet, and so we've just got to. We're going to be watching very, very closely the budgets. So that's pretty much my report to you here today. I'm prepared to answer any questions that you may have if I can.
Okay, do I have any questions directly? Dr. Samuelson?
Or just thank you for really that analysis of you know, how you see that we should be a separate kind of entity in terms of we get our fees through license fees from physicians. And I just have to compliment, if I may, the board staff as a consumer licensee. And I remember when I was a resident and we were just left to figure it out in terms of how to get the license. And I'm almost a little jealous of the current residents who have the benefit of, or at least had the benefit of Kevin and the outreach program. And I just think it's genius. And then also Kurt, and to me they're magicians, to get these timetables down. And we were just told there was a 19% vacancy rate, and they did it without overtime. And I just have to personally say I've never had such a fast personal license renewal, and I'm sure it's not because I'm a board member, because that wouldn't have shown up on the computer, but it was wonderful. And I just want to thank the board. And I'm only just their cheerleader. I haven't really been a part of that at all, but as a consumer, I just want to thank them. And frankly, a little bit of a skeptic of could it happen, and it did. And I just want to salute them and want you to know how impressed I am with them.
I want to thank you for your report. It's cautious optimism that I'm hearing from you, but I want you to be well aware that we're very focused on what needs to happen. We're also very focused on making sure that we have the best work product possible, but it's getting down to the point that we are dealing with it's not going to work anymore. We're losing staff, and we're losing opportunity. And in order for us to not go back to where we were a couple of years ago, where we were on the front pages of newspapers with the timelines and the enforcement timelines as well as the licensing timelines, we need some help and support. So to that, this board knows that we met with you and you were very generous with your time. And again, I thank you for coming again today. If you have any updates on, let's say, transportation allowances, money that we have in our budget, that's number one. So updates on not so much freeze waivers, because we understand that's working, but things like transportation and travel. That's number one, updates on that. If you have updates on, as they come forward, if you would let us know in a timely fashion. The reductions that you're asking for, the 5% on a specially funded entity, is it a permanent 5%? Or is it just for this period of time until we regain our confidence level in ourselves in California?
Well, the concept behind the 5% was not knowing what was going to happen with the budget. It was my direction to give me an idea of what the plan would be if in the event that the budget didn't get passed and we were going to end up with that kind of a hit. Right now it's an exercise because we have a budget, and the way that the budget is supposed to work is once we present the information to finance and they approve the unallocated portion, and now it gets allocated. The understanding is travel and the freeze issues will change, but I have to tell you those are executive orders. So until the executive officer gives us different orders, we'll continue to follow those. The purpose, which is to make sure that the balance, that you have the money to operate in terms of the travel, and the travel is in-state travel comes through the agency. Out-of-state travel has to be approved by the governor, and the reason for that, I mean, I really.
We're only really, to be honest with you, I don't mean to cut you off, we're only talking about in-state. We're not sending anybody to New York.
Yeah.
Okay? Or Mardi Gras. We're not going there.
And so let me just, give you a couple of my preferences. One is what the state has been embarrassed in the past by trips that organizations, maybe commissions, maybe boards took, and the amount they spent on items. And that translates into the feeling among the public that we just don't understand that times are tough. And that we don't recognize that it's taxpayers' dollars. And having said that, they don't care that your board is fee supported. They don't know. And it doesn't click. That information never gets through. It's the same thing with CalPERS and CalSTRS, the funds, the retirement funds. It's all taxpayers' dollars, whether it's a fee for service or retirement. And so the idea is to change the optics. So be careful how many people are traveling and where they're traveling to. And I've asked some of the boards, look, don't stay at the golf and spa resort.
Well, I didn't know that was an option.
Well, you'd be surprised. I mean, that is.
Nobody told us we could do that, Senor.
See, I wish it had been statewide because there were some, and frankly, these facilities are much the facilities that you get at a golf and spa resort. I mean, they're going there for those facilities. But you read it in the title of where they're going and how much money is spent, and it just doesn't look right. So I've kind of, I've asked that there be some limitations, and otherwise I've pretty much approved all the in-state travel with some exceptions. And so just, do 4 people need to go to something, or do 3, or do, work with a number that that if it ended up at the front page of the newspaper, you wouldn't be embarrassed and you wouldn't have to explain.
Okay, well, you should realize that anything that happens in this department, this staff is scrutinized by themselves as well as by this board.
That's great.
And we are very circumspect about the issue of what it looks like on the front page of any newspaper around the state.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
So don't worry about that. We just need to be able to send our people to do the job so that we don't return to the front page of the newspaper for the wrong reasons.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to iterate, it's not board members that are doing the traveling. We were, this is specific to staff, and it's very disconcerting that I think we had a board meeting and staff was limited who could come primarily because of the travel freeze. So it is not board members. Our only travel is to a board meeting. And I assure you that this board works very, very hard. And on that note, I don't know what kind of pull you might have with the governor, but if you could please remind him, we are short of members. We are down to 9. Some of the appointments are just sitting out there. Right. And what happens then is the caseload for each of the panels has gone up tremendously, and that's another thing the public doesn't understand, that that the function of this board is not just to come to meetings. We spend a lot of time online reviewing proposed discipline, and we have to make votes on that. So if we're short of people, then that means we just more work, and slower decisions because of the volume, and then it backs up with staff, and the cycle continues. So, as a regulatory body, in the sense that we, do have to meet out discipline and licensing decisions on a really tight line for the providers, we need assistance on that. We really do. And then the Operation Safe Medicine program too, that was just totally abandoned by the previous administration. We've got numerous problems throughout the state of California, and again, as an enforcement agency, I would hope that would be a top priority of our former Attorney General, knowing that this is really a problem, and we need to be able to have staff that can get out there and enforce.
Points well taken, and I am in communication with the appointments unit, and they've assured me they're working diligently to move things forward.
Well, we have one due tomorrow, so while you're talking, make sure that is taken care of.
Okay.
We also want to, what you missed right before you came, which was a really, I think, a big eye-opener for many of the people on the board that were not aware, if they were not aware. We do a big outreach to graduate medical school education programs, by which we help, and Dr. Somensen alluded to that. Those that are going to go into the licensing track of becoming licensed doctors in the state of California, both when they enter and when they finish. We have one person that is specifically identified that travels to medical schools to sit with those students and help them to make sure that the navigation of the licensing process goes smoothly. This morning we sat for an hour and a half hearing when it doesn't go smoothly on one situation. In order to alleviate that we don't have more of those situations, it's very imperative that our licensing outreach manager goes and does travel. We have not heard approval on that. That's, as far as I know, that's not a freeze waiver, that's a travel restriction. It's a staffing. I think what we need to hear is the articulation that when it is mission critical, you will either defer with conference or in contact with our executive staff. I mean, we're not asking for golf clubs and I don't even know what they're called out there.
Facial or whatever.
We're not going to country clubs. I was looking for the word country clubs. Sorry, we're not looking for that. We're looking for people for Kevin Junkie to literally travel where he spends 12, 14, 16 hours a day to do the work and do the mission of this board. So in those situations where it's mission critical, somehow there needs to be a process in place where we will agree that we will be allowed to do it. So I don't know how you work that out, but sometime in the next few days, if you guys could get together and discuss how that process could work, it sure would take a lot of pressure off this board. Okay? I promise, no country clubs.
Okay.
Okay? Any other questions?
Well, just to say that we had already said, was there any way it could be done like cyberspace or telephonically, and he said no,
No, it can't.
specifically because he has to
We've
manually
gone through
look
the-
at
right.
fingerprinting, the whole physical on-site process, so.
So you need to understand that when we ask, we're not playing games here. You know, it's like we've already taken away all the facts. I wish I could say it me personally, but anyway, I can't. But this department has really gone over and above, that they are not going to fail no matter what. They are putting in extra, forget money overtime, but energy and effort in making sure the job is done. And I just want your office and you personally to know that we're on top of it. This is a partnership. This is a collaborative opportunity. But we need to have some ability to be a little bit flexible in getting this job done. Because otherwise you will read about it on the front page of the paper.
Well, you can count on me for those kinds of
Thank you.
travel requests. I really do defer to the board to decide what's important, and that is absolutely mission critical. It's part of the piece that you do real well.
Okay, so thank you very much. If there's no other questions, I think we will probably have to move on our agenda.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I wish I could have joined you on the tour, but
it's coming up in a few minutes. But we will let you know. You should only stay out of hospitals.
Well, I try to as much as I can.
Thanks, Dr. Lowe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So I'm going to suggest that it's 3:27. I'm going to suggest that this meeting was scheduled to finish at 3:30. And it would be nice if this board would be allowed the opportunity to have a restroom break prior to going, sorry, I'm going to be upfront and honest, prior. So I'm going to ask that we're going to put over agenda number 7, our enforcement. Ms. Threadgill, if you wouldn't mind waiting till tomorrow, and then we'll continue on the agenda 7 through 13 tomorrow. We won't. Sick? Well, we'll be seeing you at that. How sick are you going to be? So I would ask that the members of this board meet in the lobby at 3:34. 3:35?
We want to put our stuff away, don't we?
Well, Dr. Lowe, what time are we supposed to be leaving? 3:30, yes?
Can we make it 3:45?
3:30, the bus is here.
Okay, so let's, as soon as possible, if we can all assemble in the lobby, the board members will be going, and then we'll be reconvening here in this room tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock sharp. And remind there's one special committee at 8:30 in the morning. Dr. Simonson, you won't forget, right?
Nope.
Thank you.
There's no point in take this thunder.